It's Isabel from New Thing. Today I am doing story time with Isabel number 7. So this is the book I've chosen for the Children's Hour. If you guys have this book, then I would recommend to follow along, and we've got it on Amazon. So yeah, let's get started. Wait, before we get started, make sure you subscribe and give it a thumbs up if you like this video. So yeah, now let's really get started. So the story that I've chosen from this book, it is Grandmother's Curtains. And I've read this story like a few times when I was little, and my mom read it to me a lot of times. Number 7. So yeah, let's get started. Ever so many years ago, there was a little girl named Polly who lived out on a beautiful farm where there were plenty of cows and pigs and chickens and apple trees and daisies. Polly's grandmother lived in the town, an old house older than you ever saw, maybe for it had built more than 200 years ago. It had the great fireplace and chimney that used to be fashion and great square parlor with a wonderful fireboard. It had a pantry where there were sure to be plenty of pies and seed cookies, and it had, best of all, a nice sign-keeping room with deep-seated windows where a little girl could play house all day, and where the grand little girl could play at grandmother's bed in the corner, hidden by a great flower chintz curtains that reached from the teaster to the floor. Polly loved the curtains more than anything else. At grandmother's, for they were covered with bunches of roses and little boy angels sitting on clouds and playing on harps. Once a week, the farm horse was harsoned, and Polly and her mother went to see grandmother. But Polly never felt that she stayed long enough. She would just have started housekeeping in the window, perhaps, or have just reached the middle of a cookie, or have just caught in the kitchen, when her father would come in to say that his business was done and must go home before dark. "Oh, Mother, do let me stay all night," Polly would say, but she never did stay, until one particular afternoon, and that I'm going to tell you about. "Where's Polly?" asked Father when he came in to hurry them off. "Where's Polly?" asked Mother, getting her little shawl and hood all ready. "Why, here she is on my bed," said Grandmother, as she looked behind the curtains, "and she's fast asleep. It is too bad to wake the lamb up. Do let her stay for once, Anne." Mother came to look, and she smiled a bit as she noticed a twitch in the eyelids. But it was snowing out of doors, and she thought maybe Polly would be better. "Stay after all," so she said carefully. "Very well, we'll leave her, and her father can come for her tomorrow night." So they went, and no sooner had the wagon fairly started than there was a shout, and a great peal of laughter, and a rush as Polly jumped off the bed and flew to Grandmother to give her a big hug. "You're a little rogue," said Grandmother, giving her a kiss. "May I have jelly for supper?" asked Polly. She wanted an after supper. Grandmother held her in her lap and told her an old fairy story. Then her own nightgowns to sleep in, and Polly settled down at the great feather bed and knew no more until morning. When she awoke, there were all the little angels looking at her, and the sun was shining in, and she could hear Grandmother in the kitchen. In a minute, Polly was there too, watching the biscuit and the tin baker for the fire. After breakfast,
Curtains.
After breakfast, she had a splendid time. First, she went up to the garret with Grandmother after the quilting frame, and she hid inside the old clock for as much as 5 minutes, just for fun. Then she got a whole handful of dried peppermint to nibble. While Grandmother was getting her quilting downstairs, Polly kept house in the small window and had all broken bits of an old saucer for a tea set. By and by, she moved to a new house, and where do you suppose it was? Under the great flower basket quilt that was stretched upon the frame, and you haven't any idea, unless you've tried it, what a lovely house it makes. There, Polly gathered her dishes, her rag baby, and the cat, and was as happy as a queen. Presently, Mrs. Clark and Miss Avery came in with their timbals to help Grandmother to get her quilt done, and they all three talked and stitched and forgot all about Polly. For a long time, she watched the pretty diamonds as they appeared, one after another, on the roof of the house, and when she was tired of, there were Miss Avery's scissors, which she had dropped on the floor and never missed. Now, Polly's mother scarcely ever let her take scissors, because Polly wasn't quite 5 yet, and might do mischief, but this time there was nobody to say no, no. Those dear little boy angels, how often she had wished she might take one home to play with. She crept out from under the quilting frames, and no one noticed, for they were all too busy talking about the best ways to wash feathers. At last, Miss Avery needed her scissors, and when she pushed back her chair to look for them, "Where can they be?" she asked, and then she exclaimed, Why, there they are, and Polly is in mischief." "Why, Polly," said Grandmother, getting up as quickly as she could. Why, Polly," said Grandmother, getting up as quickly as she could. Polly had just finished cutting out the second angel, and there they were, smiling in her lap. "Your nice chintz curtains," said Mrs. Clark, "and you have had them only a year." "She cut them all zigzag," said Miss Avery. "Why, Polly," said Grandmother, and she could really not think of anything else to say. So Polly gave back the dear little boy angels, and Mrs. Clark and Miss Avery went to work lying pieces under and darning down till at last you would never have known, unless you had looked twice, that the little winged boy had never left the clouds. "I know they wanted to go home and play with me," said Polly, when she told her mother all about it that night. Well, they did come to live with her at last, but not until many years after. When Grandmother had gone to live with the real angels, sometimes Polly, who's a grown-up mother now, takes them out of their box and unfolds them and looks at them, and the two mended places make her feel as if she was a little girl again.
All right, thanks for watching.
Well, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you give me a huge thumbs up. Subscribe button, turn notifications. See you guys later. Bye. Story time with Isabel, number 7, and stay tuned for number 8.